Hey guys, it's Dan, your host of your Dan's Reviews, and today I'm back for another video for Game of Thrones, of course, after episode 3. Oh man, just absolutely insane episode, of course, this past Sunday, of course, with the long night episode 3. So, of course, we did our review for episode 3, of course, go check that out in the channel if you haven't seen it yet, and we did our predictions for episode 4. So, now we're going to do a topic which I do think is actually a pretty shocking one. I'm pretty shocked to make this video because I kind of thought that the Night King... Okay, spoiler warning, by the way, for Game of Thrones. We're going to get into spoilers, so if you haven't seen episode 3, get out, for sure. And once you do, go check out the review and predictions as well. But in terms of the Night King, so the Night King and the White Walkers are done. They won the battle, and now they won the war with the Night King. Now they're gonna win the last war, as Daenerys said in the promo. So, I really, seeing the promo for episode 4, I've been watching it a couple other times. I'm just in shock, honestly. And you're probably, you guys are probably, I mean, from the title of the video what I'm talking about. The fact that Cercei is gonna be the last villain for Game of Thrones, I just thought that the Night King would make more of, like, I don't know. I thought that the Night King, it would be more interesting if he was the last villain. Because, honestly, it almost feels like, I was watching some videos, I was watching a couple reviews for the episodes, I was watching Movie Idol, he did his review for episode 3 as well. I was also watching Make a Path Presents about episode 3, and also Cercei 2. They were all kind of talking about how they thought that, at least I remember Movie Idol and Cercei 2. I don't know about Make a Path Presents, but I know for a fact that Movie Idol and Cercei 2 both were talking about how it's weird how because they kind of thought that, the two of them at least, they thought that maybe the Night King would be like the final villain of the show, and Cercei would kind of be dead by the time the Night King attacks. We would see some stuff with Cercei at first with the Golden Company, and then we would see the big final battle with the Night King and stuff with the White Walkers at the end of Game of Thrones. Didn't happen. It's actually the other way, and we're going to actually see now, after the battle with the Night King, the White Walkers are done. Now we're going to get to see what is the final battle, and it's going to be Cercei and the Golden Army and all of them guys. So, in terms of Cercei being the last villain for Game of Thrones, what are my thoughts on this, and do I agree with it? I actually personally think it's kind of a bit of a weak attempt, to be honest, because I find that it's like people have been saying this like crazy. If they can survive the Night King, and if they could survive the White Walkers, and they could survive what happened in episode 3, they can easily survive, Cercei and the Golden Army and all the people at King's Landing. It's pretty weird how they would do that, because it's like, I feel like the fans, the villain that's feared the most, I feel like, is the Night King, because the Night King has, like, all these people, like, this whole army of White Walkers. It was such a big deal at the end of Season 7 when they crossed the wall. And now that it's over, and it's, like, midway through the last season, they're already they're done, and that's it. And Cercei is going to be the last villain for Game of Thrones. Interesting choice, because if I'm being honest, I thought it was going to be the other way around. So, definitely, that's a shock for me. That is a huge shocker that we would actually see Game of Thrones have Cercei be the last villain and not the Night King. Because I feel like it started, the opening scene of Season 1 started off with some White Walkers, right? I believe that's how Season 1, Episode 1 of Game of Thrones started, with the White Walkers. You would think that we would actually get to see it end or something in the season finale with the White Walker battle. But episode 3 is what I thought we'd see for the series finale. I really did. So honestly, it's a pretty interesting choice that they're actually going to have Cercei versus Daenerys, and that kind of be the last war of Game of Thrones. So, is it the right choice? Do I feel like they should have saved the Night King for the end of Game of Thrones and have Cercei before? Or do you like the direction where it's kind of the twist, and when you think the Night King might be like the last enemy for Game of Thrones, no, he actually does get defeated halfway through, and we see Cercei and her army kind of, at the end of the series now. So, in terms of my thoughts on this, it's an interesting choice in terms of having Cercei be the last villain for Game of Thrones instead of the Night King, for sure. Definitely a big deal, but honestly, I like the idea. It's a pretty good idea, but for sure, Cercei being the last villain is definitely not what I thought we would see for Game of Thrones. So, write your comments in the comment section below. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing a death predictions video for the second half of Season 4 of The Plague. And then, of course, we'll see where it goes from there. So, if you guys want to see any more Game of Thrones videos leading up to Episode 4, all you got to do is comment that down below. If not, I might, not do another video until, of course, next Monday when we see Episode 4. But I definitely want to give my thoughts on Cercei being the last villain for Game of Thrones and not being the Night King, not the Night King being the last villain, which I think is an interesting choice for sure. Because like I said, I didn't really think the Night King, would have died halfway through the last season. I thought that would be kind of how Game of Thrones would end. You'd see, the final battle between the White Walkers and, Winterfell, and that being just halfway through the season like that. Interesting, yeah, definitely interesting choice. Because like I said, when I'm watching the promo for Episode 4, I'm shocked that when Daenerys says the last war, it points to Cercei. So, yeah, interesting. And like I said, Cercei versus how strong the Night King was and his army, honestly, I don't really... It's not as big of a threat as, the Night King. It's just not. The Night King and the White Walkers are way more fearsome than Cercei and just everything that's going to happen with her in this episode. And I don't know. It's an interesting choice to have Cercei be the last villain for the series. And it makes me think, are they doing that because Cercei is going to win? And it's like... I hope not. I hope Cercei doesn't win, and and she's the person that sits on the throne at the end. But you never know. Maybe that's why Cercei is actually the last villain for Game of Thrones. Who knows at this point? So, of course, write your comments in the comment section below. I'm going to end the video here, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Write your comments about Cercei, and would you have, rather have the Night King be the last villain for Game of Thrones? Mainly because the Night King and the White Walkers are so much more fearsome than Cercei and everybody else at King's Landing. Or do you think the reason why they have Cercei be the last villain is because she is seriously going to maybe actually win this? It's not impossible, The showrunners are like, if you think this show has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. Well, it's like, honestly, maybe that's why, So I guess we're going to have to find out. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Write your comments below about that, and I will catch you guys tomorrow for my death predictions video for the second half, Season 4 of The Plague. Peace out.